Tide roll. Rammer jammer, yellow hammer.
What's going on, everybody? Christian Ballard here, Ballard Sports Media, with a new podcast. Yes, I know it's a video, kind of, but hey, I figured why not start a podcast on the channel, So I figured, why not talk some Bama football? I know I'm a Bama fan, and I'm trying to be a sportscaster. I try to be fair and unbiased. So welcome into the new podcast on my channel, the Tidecast podcast, just audio. Each week I'll have probably a different Bama picture or whatever. And we got some stuff to talk about today. As far as like the schedule, I've given my thoughts on it for SEC only in 2020. So, Alabama schedule is released. Is it what Tide fans expected? I don't know. I've heard some rumors like, the Iron Bowl's not the last game of the season. Well, it's on Thanksgiving weekend, but it's traditional that it's played the last game of the year for Alabama. Well, if you ask me, and again, I'll mention here, I know I'm a Bama fan. I try not to be biased. If Bama messes up, hey, I call them out or anything. I don't know if they messed up. I like the fact that it's on Thanksgiving weekend, talking the Iron Bowl here on the Tidecast podcast. I like that it's on the on Thanksgiving weekend. It's traditional. It hasn't always been played there, but as long as I've known it, this whole it has to be the last game of the regular season for Alabama and the Tide. I'm just like, really? Is it ever really the last game, though? Maybe regular season, but we're used to playing games after the Iron Bowl. Alabama's used to that. The championships after the Iron Bowl. The SEC title games after the Iron Bowl. The Peach Bowl or Sugar Bowl, whatever bowl game they make, it's after the Iron Bowl. It's not the last game of the season. There's still more games to be played. I understand it being the last game of the regular season, and I understand that. But, hey, if you're asking me, I like it right where it is Thanksgiving weekend. Because I'll explain this here again. I've mentioned it recently. Talked to Uncle Lou about it on his call-in show. I like Thanksgiving weekend. Have turkey one day, buy some crap the next day, Black Friday, and then on Saturday sit my butt down on the couch, watch some rivalry games, including the Iron Bowl. I like that it's on Thanksgiving weekend. I don't care if it's the last game or not. I really don't care. Now, if you're a Bama fan, I understand what you're getting at. You want it to be the regular season finale. Save the best game for last. Oh, well, now we got to play Arkansas. Oh, no, not Arkansas. On the road, too. Last game of the season's a road game at Arkansas on December 5th. Call it a bye week. Arkansas's the team at the bottom of the West. Call it a bye week. Just be glad that we have football. Because the season was almost gone. I know what I've said about, they can't cancel the season or anything like that. I understand what I've said. And again, I'll say, I'm not a denier of COVID. I just have a feeling that maybe we should take chances. I mean, really, I would rather them play football during this pandemic and find out that maybe we, I would hate to find out years down the road if we had canceled the season that we could have played and we wasted it not playing. I would hate that. So be glad that we're getting a football season. Oh, but the Iron Bowl is not the last game. Well, it's Thanksgiving weekend. Deal with it. They didn't move it. They didn't try to change it. You think Georgia likes that Auburn moved the Deep South game with Auburn? Auburn cried about that. Auburn tried to move the Iron Bowl a few years ago. I got really upset about that. They thought about moving the Iron Bowl and the Georgia game. Because it's not fair they got to play back-to-back weeks. Or there's a 2-week period between those teams on Auburn's schedule. So just be glad that we're getting an Iron Bowl this year. Happy to see Coach back, talking to the pressers, or having his pressers, talking to the press. Great to hear from him, Dylan Moses is back for Alabama this year. He was a key role in the defense a few years ago. I mean, he's the leader of the defense. Alabama's defense was terrible last year because he was gone. And they played a lot of young players, and experience, by the way. Now those guys have experience, they come back. Defense is going to be lit. It's going to be ready to go. I guarantee you that. I mean, in my opinion, I don't see how it could have got worse. And I'm not trying to take anything away from these players. You hate to do that, but they're young. And when you have a first-year defensive coordinator in Pete Golding, who doesn't have much experience in the game, at least from my understanding, when you take in a really young coordinator, first year, plus a bunch of young, inexperienced players, don't expect your defense to be championship-like. But those guys have experience now. And Dylan Moses comes back. He's kind of the key leader. I mean, he's a motivator, dude. This dude can ball out. He's a motivator. He gets you hype in the locker room. You need that for this defense. So this is good that he's coming back this year. And the only reason he didn't play is because of injury. He wants to have a breakout year as a senior. He wants to improve his draft stock and everything. So, I mean, there's that. So, be grateful that we have a season. Yes, they moved some games. I don't know why they had to move games around. I kind of hate that. The A&M game was before the Iron Bowl. That would have been played on the 21st of November. That's now a game against Kentucky. I don't see why you couldn't just take... I understand pushing the season back a little bit more because of a late fall camp and stuff. It's now no longer September 5th, it's the 26th, and you open at Missouri. I don't know why Georgia cannot be the opening game for Alabama. I don't know why they had to move all that around. Why couldn't you just start with your SEC as scheduled regularly? Maybe you do want to push it back to the end of September. Okay, cool. And then... Well, I guess this is kind of why. This is kind of why they had to move it around, was because originally scheduled late August, early September was a game against USC. Well, that's now moved. At this point, that would be September 26th or whatever. So you'd have to take that off. Move the games around a bit. I get it, but... still, I just don't see why you couldn't play the originally scheduled SEC teams in order or whatever. Why can we not open with Georgia? They were the SEC opener. They were the home opener. Actually, they weren't. Alabama had, I don't know, a cupcake team. Georgia State is who they had. But it's conference only. So, for you Bama fans, just be grateful we're getting a season. Okay, third Saturday game is still the 4th Saturday of October. There's no bye week on Halloween like there was originally. So Saban will have a game on his birthday. Home game against Mississippi State after the road game against Tennessee. Here, we'll run through the schedule real quick. Open up with a road game at Mizzou. Come back home, play A&M. At Ole Miss, home against Georgia. At Tennessee. Home against Mississippi State, at LSU, home against Kentucky, home against Auburn, and then the final game, again, it's not the Iron Bowl. This is on December 5th, which should be the SEC title game, but it's not. It's a road game against Arkansas. So, there's your schedule, Tide fans. And quite honestly, again, I mentioned, just be grateful we're having a football season. I don't care who Alabama has to play. I don't care if it's Clemson in the playoffs or whoever they face. I want Alabama to finally have an undefeated season. They haven't been undefeated since 2009 when the people say the dynasty began then. Since then, they've had to lose to teams like Ole Miss or Auburn or LSU or whoever just to win natties. They use a loss as motivation. Why can't they use the fact they almost lost a season? Use the fact that you lost the Iron Bowl. You lost 2 games last year. And the last time you were in the playoffs, you got blown out by Clemson. How? How does that happen? Use all that as motivation to fuel Alabama to go undefeated this year. Bama fans complaining about the schedule. Auburn's not the last game. Well, it's Thanksgiving weekend. So what? Just be glad we got a season. And if you ask me, I really don't care what the schedule looks like, as long as Alabama just makes the natty. Wins the natty. Don't just make it there, win it. I want this to end. It's been 2 straight years, back-to-back years where Bama did not win the national championship. One they made and got blown out. The other, they didn't even make it. So again, the schedule's out. Bama fans, I've heard, complaining because Auburn's not the last game. I don't care as long as it's on Thanksgiving weekend and we get a season going. And again, I've mentioned the Pac-12 and the Big 10 are not playing. We're down to 3 Power 5 conferences, the ACC, SEC, the Big 12. So, we're getting football. We almost didn't. We probably shouldn't even be playing, if you ask some people. So, just be glad we got football, Tide fans. Quit complaining because the last game is in Auburn. Oh, but it's tradition to play Auburn the last week of the season. No, it's tradition to play them Thanksgiving weekend. Yes, that's the last game of the regular season before the SEC title game. I get that. Just be grateful we're getting a season. I will say, though, I'm not a big fan of them moving the Georgia game or anything because, I figured, why can't that be the SEC opener? That was supposed to be week 3. Then conference only happened, and I'm like, okay, week 1. But no, it's Missouri, week 1 for the Tide. Well, Alabama's defense improved this year. I don't see how it could get worse. You gave up 46 points to LSU. Now give credit to Joe Burrow and Brady and Steve Ensminger and all that. Give credit where credit is due. They had a great offense. There's no excuse for that. There's no excuse for giving up 48 points to your rival in Auburn in the Iron Bowl. There's no excuse for that. I don't see how it could get worse for Alabama's defense this year. It has to get better. It just has to, man. Dylan Moses comes back. Oh, he's the leader of the defense. I would agree, man. He's such a good motivator. I've heard about him. He's a great player, man. He was a key factor in games like the Sugar Bowl a couple years ago when they played Clemson, or, just in general. He's made some good plays against opponents like Tennessee or Auburn or whoever. He's made some great plays. He gets hurt last year. Quite a few injuries on defense last year. Not just him, but him especially. Defense goes down. What are you going to do? You're going to play a lot of inexperienced freshmen. Well, now those guys have experience, thankfully. I'm sure they've learned enough about Pete Golding. Pete Golding comes back. You don't have to worry about a new coordinator, thankfully. So, there's your experience, I guess. I'm just going to go ahead and say right now. Again, I don't care who Alabama plays. I just want the defense to get better. I want to see Alabama back on top, man. I know there's Clemson fans and everybody out there. Oh, Bama's not on top. It's not Bama and everyone else now. It's Clemson. It's LSU. It's LSU. Or LSU and OSU, Ohio State is what I meant to say. You get it. It's not Bama and everybody else. You're right, it's not. And it probably will never be Bama and everybody else again. But it could be Bama, this team, and everybody else. It could still be Bama and Clemson and everybody else. It still is. 2-2 against Clemson in the playoffs. Both of them got 2 natties. They're 2-2 against each other. If that's the natty this year, everything's at stake. The playoff era, who's the better program right now? Head-to-head coaches, Dabo and Saban. Bama cannot afford to go another year without a national title. They're going to be mad. They're going to be fueled up. And Saban knows that. They can't afford another year without a national title. The window's closing on the dynasty, said Paul Feinbaum. It is if you don't win a national title this year, Bama. Get it in gear. Into defense. The offense is great, man. You got to give credit to Mac Jones. Take away 2 pick sixes in that Iron Bowl. They win the game. Okay. But the defense gives up 48 points. It looked great against Michigan in the Citrus Bowl. You got to give them that. Shea Patterson's a pretty decent quarterback too, so you can't really say much about Michigan's offense. Nothing bad about it, at least. But, I mean, defense has got to get better, man. You got to turn it around this year. And again, I'll mention, I don't see how it could get worse. I just don't see it. It's got to get better. Even if it's just a little bit, it's got to get better. Well, the most they give up was 48 points. If the most they give up this year is only like 35 or whatever, it's better than 48, I guess. Oh, with the 35 points they gave up in the natty to Clemson. Okay, well, Trevor Lawrence, right? Before the natty, they only gave up like 20-something points. I don't know where the defense was. I mean, they pulled it out. Just hypothetically speaking here, by the way, folks. It's got to get better for the Tide this year. And again, with the scheduling, complain all you want to about the Iron Bowl not being the last game of the season, Tide fans. Just be glad that we're getting an Iron Bowl this year. It's not the last game of the year for Alabama. The last game's Arkansas. Well, it's on Thanksgiving weekend. Isn't that what you want? Would you rather us delay it and play it on Christmas Day? No, you want it. So we have an extra game. So Alabama plays Arkansas the final week. Call it a bye week. Arkansas is the worst team in the West. Probably the worst in the SEC right now. We got an extra game after the Iron Bowl. Please. Pathetic. It's got to get better for the Tide. It's got to get better for Coach Saban this year. And how about Mac Jones, man? He's gonna be the guy that could lead us to a championship. I really believe that. I get Bryce Young and everything, but man, I don't see Bryce Young taking over if Mac Jones right away out the gate is just starting to put up excellent numbers. We talk about Bryce Young could take over in that Georgia game or whoever. I mean, it might not be the Georgia game. I don't know, but because again, that got moved. But, I mean, you play teams like Ole Miss early. You play teams like... Now Week 3 is Ole Miss. Week 2 is A&M. That was supposed to be the game before the Iron Bowl. So, I mean, I don't know. I think Mac Jones could do it. I made a video the other day. You guys know. Mac Attack. Don't sleep on Mac Jones for an elite draft quarterback. He's not Trevor Lawrence? No. Right? Jamie Newman? I don't know. We'll see what happens against Georgia. I don't know. He's not Justin Fields. But, to have him at the bottom of the draft list or anything is pretty crazy. Don't sleep on Mac Jones this year, man. Quarterback play is going to be key for Alabama. And, so, yeah, Bryce Young could take over, but Mac Jones might transfer out and prove that maybe Bryce Young shouldn't have taken over. I'll leave you with this, Tide fans. Don't get all butthurt because they had to move the schedule around or they had to have an extra game after the Iron Bowl. Be grateful we got a season. The schedule's out. There's going to be some SEC football. Bama's going to be there. And just hope for a natty this year, Tide fans. We can do this. Bama Factor. I want to see the Bama Factor restored. That was supposed to happen last year. I don't know where it was. I didn't see it. But hopefully this year it could be restored. and the defense can get better. We know the offense will be great. We know Dylan Moses comes back on defense. Is he going to be the key motivator? I think so. But, we'll see what happens. Anyway, that's going to do it for episode 1 of the Tidecast podcast. And I appreciate you guys for showing up and listening today. Please like, comment, and subscribe. As always, like I say on all my other videos. Again, this is a podcast type of video deal. Appreciate you guys for showing up today. Don't forget, we got a season. Roll Tide Roll. I'll see y'all next time.